Hi, this is my journal entry for the 7th of July, which was Friday. I don't know when I'm going to be able to upload this video though, because I haven't got any internet again. I've changed the name of my YouTube channel. It was VB75. It's now Victoria A. Beeching. A is my middle name for Anne. I changed it because I wanted people to be able to find my channel by searching on just my name. So hopefully you can just put Victoria Beeching and my channel will come up, but I haven't checked it yet because I haven't got any internet at the moment. So yeah, this is my entry for Friday. I'm recording this on Sunday, so I'm going to call Sky, who are supposed to be providing my broadband tomorrow, so hopefully that'll get sorted. Okay. I started going to bed really early. Yesterday I went to bed about 6 o'clock. I was very tired and this developed into a migraine. I took 100 milligrams of sumatriptan. This took a while to work, and then when the headache pain had gone I still felt pretty awful. Then I started to get a pain in my bladder and ended up taking 5 tramadol before it went. I used to get these bladder pains a lot. I think the controllers are behind these like they are my migraines. It was one of their favourite ways of keeping me awake at night, although for some reason they stopped doing it. But last night it started again. I believe the controllers are able to interfere with most of your body's processes, and that one thing they can do is halt digestion. This also slows down the absorption of any medication you take. I've eaten meals and then hours later vomited the whole thing back up, still undigested, and as I swallowed it. Which is why I think I have to wait an hour or more for my medication to have an effect. I remember one time in hospital, I'd been given some morphine and I was still in pain. One of the nurses said to me she didn't understand it because they'd given me enough to knock out a horse. I remember watching an Alex Jones video once where he described an experience he had had in hospital. After his operation they told him how hard it had been to keep him under and how much stuff they'd had to give him. He took this to mean he had some kind of super strong brain, but I wonder if someone was trying to interfere in the operation. With me, I think they are doing something to control the production of my stomach acid, because I've had the opposite problem as well. I'll have these terrible abdominal pains, and the only thing that stops it is gastro-resistant medication, which stops the production of acid. This takes a while to act though, so I think they can either stop you producing stomach acid or make you overproduce stomach acid. Another thing that sometimes happens to me is I feel really hungry, and nothing I eat will stop me from feeling hungry. Taking gastro-resistant meds also helps with this. I sometimes wonder if obesity is an artificially created problem because people are being zapped with frequencies that make them feel hungry all the time. And probably they're being hit with frequencies that make them lethargic as well, so they just sit in front of their TVs eating and putting on weight. This is one of the ways I think people are being dumbed down and kept ignorant of the genocide planned for humanity. Yesterday was the first day I didn't have any carers. I felt like a weight had been lifted off me, as if I had suddenly gained my freedom. I haven't, of course, but certainly one source of daily stress has been removed. The last carer who came was Laura on Wednesday evening. She wasn't aware I had cancelled my care plan. She looked disappointed, as well as surprised when I told her. I guess they will have to focus their energies on harassing some other poor person now. If the controllers decide to stay there, they have certainly invested a lot of time and energy into subverting the carers at Tamworth Home Care. Laura was telling me about a client they have who she just goes round to once a week and does some cleaning for her, and a bit of shopping. She said the lady liked her going round because it gave her some contact with the outside world. I guess she was trying to put ideas in my head. She really has no idea what I think of her, or the rest of them. I'm not fooled by all this pretend friendliness. It's quite funny when I think of them fighting over who's going to be my handler, like vultures fighting over a carcass. Maybe there's some kind of bounty on my head, because they try really hard to coax me into their confidence. There is some other reward in it for them, I think, apart from the pleasure of simply deceiving me. Sometimes they would ask my opinion of the other carers, to see if I liked them or not, to see what competition they had. One thing I've been doing to try and get well again is to stop using chemical detergents like washing up liquid. Instead I use soda crystals, or baking soda, citric acid and white vinegar. When Laura was here she commented how hard it was to clean using these things, and then she said she'd been speaking to Pauline about what she used to use when she came here. I told her that Pauline used to sneak in washing up liquid. Laura said, "Oh, you knew she did that?" And I said I did. She thought this was funny. I didn't at the time. It was sad to realise that the carers, who were being so nice to my face, were collaborating with the controllers. If Laura had extrapolated this, she'd have realised that there were probably plenty of things I realised they'd been doing. But she carried on chatting, trying to influence me and convince me she was my friend. If that was me, I'd have thought, well, if she realises Pauline was bringing in chemical detergents, what else did she realise Pauline was doing? I've told several carers about my YouTube channel, including Lucy, Yolanda, Claire and Pauline. If they'd have watched my videos, they'd have realised straight away I knew what they were up to and when they were lying to me. It's amazing to me that they didn't. Again, if it was me and someone I was trying to control and manipulate, hypothetically, because I'm not like that, told me they had a YouTube channel, I'd go and check it out, simply to see if I could learn something about them. Actually, if anyone I knew had a vlog, I'd probably just check it out of curiosity, because I'm interested in what other people think. So I wonder what the controllers have said to keep people from going to my YouTube videos. Maybe they claim to be reporting the content of my videos to them. Maybe they tell people not to watch them to keep my views down, although I'm sure YouTube is quite capable of manipulating video statistics on channels they don't like. Maybe they just tell these people not to watch my videos, and these silly people are so intent on impressing their masters they do whatever they are told, even if there is no reason, in the hope they can win favour with their master, with these monsters. Anyway, my fantasy of telling these arseholes what I thought of them didn't happen. Laura's left still maintaining her facade and me maintaining mine. I'm guessing they will send someone for the folder at some point. They are supposed to keep these records for several years. There was a power cut for a few hours this afternoon. I rang up the electric company and for the third time in 3 days the person on the other end pretended not to be able to hear me. I know he was pretending from the simple fact that he's the third person to do this, and also because he was only speaking when I wasn't. He kept saying, "Hello, is anyone in there?" after each time I repeated the postcode he'd asked for. The first time this happened was Tuesday evening when I rang up Tamworth Home Care to tell them I was cancelling my care plan. I got through to a woman called Amanda. At first I couldn't hear her. I seemed to be hearing very faintly a conversation she was having on another line. She came back and apologised. Maybe this was a genuine incident that just gave the controllers another idea for irritating me. Amanda told me she couldn't cancel my care without speaking to social services first. I had already tried calling my social worker Gemma Wainwright, but I'd got her answer machine. Amanda said she would call Gemma in the morning because, she said, she knew she wouldn't be at work now, suggesting she knew that I had already tried calling her. The following morning I had a private number show up on my phone. I didn't get to answer it in time, but I thought it might have been Gemma, so I called her back. And she did exactly the same thing the guy at the electricity company had done, pretending not to be able to hear me. So I hung up and rang her back. She said it must have been my reception. I said I could hear her fine, so then she said she must have a dodgy line. which was nonsense as she was speaking on a landline. I will have a landline when Sky finally connect me. They've already given me the number. I don't intend to give it to anyone, but it would be nice to be able to make calls without having to blast my head with microwave radiation. Maybe they are telling people to pretend there is a problem with my mobile, so that I use a landline instead. These people love being told what to do. Maybe they know too that I tend to do the opposite of what they're trying to make me do. But I'd rather not have the radiation, even if it means appearing to being controlled by these fuckers. Gemma came over yesterday, ostensibly to look in my folder to see what times the carers had been turning up, because I told her they'd been turning up late. As I hadn't been letting them in though, when they came late, these times haven't been recorded. I had started keeping a separate record of the times they were arriving, although I only managed to keep this up for a week. When she came, I read out the week I had recorded, from the 10th of June to the 17th. There were only a couple of days they had actually shown up on time. For some reason, though, she wasn't interested in this week, and she didn't take a note of any of these times. Instead, she seemed only concerned with the dates of the logs still in the folder, so I got my journal out. At first I couldn't find it, and she said not to worry, it didn't matter. But I wanted to show her the times they'd been turning up, and I managed to find it, and give her some of the times they were late, for the days that she was interested in. Really, I think this was all an act. She phoned Tamworth Home Care while she was here, and asked to speak to someone who turned out not to be there, according to the person on the other end, and so she arranged a time to call back this person to speak about the times they'd been turning up for my calls. She repeated the reason for the call three times. I think that was more for my benefit, so I would believe that she was really going to do something about it. But this was all a charade, and just an excuse to come over and pretended she wanted to be my buddy, like the carers do. She repeated something they have all said to me, when I was telling her what times they'd been coming. She said, "Is 10 o'clock your preferred time then?" This is annoying because they all keep repeating this, so I know it's something they've been instructed to say. And also it seems to imply that I'm the problem, expecting the carers to come at this specific time, rather than the carers who seem to be coming at any time they fancy. In fact, this is the time they offered me when social services asked if they could do my calls. I had tried telling Gemma not to come over. I'm not sure how I caved in the end. Sometimes I think mind control, taking over someone and making them do things they wouldn't otherwise, is a real thing. I hate these people coming. I know that when anybody comes they will go through this charade of being my friend, whilst dropping hints and innuendos that tell me they're not. I don't think they realise I pick up these hints and innuendos. I'm pretty sure that the controllers tell them that being autistic these things pass me by. They just like making these innuendos because they think I don't get them and it makes them feel clever. So when they come over I have to deflect all these insincere overtures whilst constantly being on watch for the traps they might be setting for me or lies they might be telling me. It's exhausting having to constantly defend yourself against people who are trying to force their way into your life. The last time Yolanda came, she told me about a lodger she'd had, a young man who wasn't getting on with his family. She said how surprised she was he couldn't do simple tasks like washing up and how clumsy he was. I know the controllers say these things about me, but she didn't realise I knew that, and thought I would join her in saying how shocking it was and inadvertently condemn myself. Instead, I told her my clumsiness was due to my autism. She just said, "Oh," and tried to put on an innocent face. She'd said plenty of other things in a similar vein, so I decided to leave her to it and go back into the lounge. But as soon as I turned to go, she started throwing questions at me to keep me talking. I wish I wasn't so nice to people sometimes, because they really don't deserve it, but I kept talking to her. We talked a bit about politics, and I very briefly told her about the world being run by secret societies who control politicians and anyone else in a position of power. She suddenly went into innocent defence mode again and changed the subject. Later I got back onto it and told her these people had plans to reduce the population to 500 million, which I said would mean killing 6.5 billion people. I always used to imagine this revelation would shock these people into realising how depraved the controllers are, and might even get them to come clean. But shockingly, they seem to already be privy to this information. When I told Yolanda then, rather than being shocked, she did exactly as she had when I told her I was autistic, and just said, "Oh," whilst trying to look innocent but coming across as guilty. A few minutes later, she said she felt as if there was a battle going on inside her between her good and bad selves, which sounded pretty much like a confession to me. Claire said something similar to me once. It makes me wonder if they too are being subject to some kind of mind control. Maybe if left alone they wouldn't do the things they do. It certainly seems very bizarre that your average person on the street could consider the murder of 6.5 billion people as acceptable. The last time Gemma had come for my annual review, she said she would ask her manager if my evening call could be increased to 45 minutes. I was pretty shocked as the meeting had started with her trying to say my calls were already too long. Claire had been there as well. Just before we'd started, she'd pulled me into the kitchen to tell me she was on my side and here to help me. Of course I didn't believe her, and there were plenty of knowing looks between the two of them to make me think they both knew something about what each of them would say before they'd arrived. So anyway, I didn't have any cause to believe that my calls would really be increased to 45 minutes, and as it happened, they weren't. The carers kept bringing it up, hoping, I suppose, to get me irate that Gemma hadn't got back to me about this, but I would just shrug my shoulders. Pauline would sometimes stay 45 minutes if she was doing a curry or a chilli, but as none of the others could cook and generally just used the time to chat, the extra time would just have turned into a tea break. Then, the week before Gemma told me she was coming, my evening calls suddenly went up to 45 minutes. The carers all commented how great this was for me. I didn't see what was so great. They weren't doing any more than they were before. While Gemma was here checking the folder, she mentioned longer calls and said she was sorry it had taken so long to get okayed by her manager. She said she didn't want me to think that she hadn't done anything about it. It just takes that long for the request to go through their system. But as it hadn't been playing on my mind, I didn't really have much to say to her about it. What was more shocking was the fact that I now apparently owe social services 2 years of contributions for the care. This was shocking because in those 2 years I've never received even one invoice. I remember having a visit from 2 people, a man called Joe and a woman called Karen, and she took details of my income in order to work out if I would have to pay a contribution. I can't remember what the outcome of the meeting was, except that she said it would depend on if I claimed a certain benefit. I would keep asking the carers if they knew anything about this, and they kept saying social services were paying. As I didn't hear any more, I foolishly assumed that this must be so, if social services weren't asking me for any money. I now owe them about £3,000. I asked Gemma why I'd not received any invoices, and why they'd waited 2 years to tell me this. She said she didn't know. Really, it shouldn't have been Gemma who had come to see me, but someone from finance. I guess they were hiding from me. Gemma acted very sympathetic and understanding and said I should call her and she would offer all the help she could to negotiate for me with finance. While they can take me to court if they want this money, 2 years is a ridiculous amount of time to leave before telling someone they owe you money. I'm sure the controllers are behind this. People are so daft. I asked Gemma for her email, but she wouldn't give it to me. She said, "Give me yours and I'll email you." I'm not expecting her to. I prefer emails to having to talk to these people. A phone conversation gives these people more opportunity to control the dialogue and to influence you. I realised this a while ago. Whenever you confront a sociopath with something they've done, they will often say, "Let's talk about it," because that's what they're good at, talking and charming and manipulating. I had been dead set against Gemma coming round, and if we'd been speaking over email, I probably wouldn't have caved in. For a while Gemma was here, she did look very concerned for me, but clearly the whole thing was a setup, and clearly she's also competing for the honoured title of being my handler. My new internet allowance didn't last long, about a week. I get 15 gigabytes a month on my dongle. I haven't been using my internet any more than usual, and this usually lasts me a month, so I don't think I've really used up all this internet data. This has happened several times in the past. It's just something else controllers do to piss me off. My Sky broadband was supposed to start 2 days ago. A guy came over at about 8 o'clock in the morning and said he needed to look at my phone line. He messed about, putting various devices in the socket and mumbling things like strange and that sort. Then he went outside and played with the box on the outside wall. Then he came in and said he would have to go and look at the box down the road. Then he came back and said he wasn't able to activate the line, that there was another box underground that he wasn't able to look at because you have to have lots of shots before you can do it, and that another engineer would have to come out. I've no idea if anything he was telling me was true. Anyway, I am now without internet access. During the power cut, I saw a van from the electric company turn up behind my flat. There is a small substation behind the flats. When I called up the electric company, the guy on the phone, the second guy I called, not the first one who pretended not to be able to hear me, said a fuse had probably gone at the substation and it would probably be back on in an hour or two. So this is probably what the van was doing there. I mentioned electrical problems in my last vlog, so I don't think this power cut was a random event. I've noticed before how the controllers will do something to annoy me that also ends up inconveniencing a whole lot of other people too. In the last property I was at, actually it was a homeless hostel run by the council, it was a tiny bedsit and not very pleasant. Often a contractor would turn up in the early hours of the morning and make a lot of noise outside my window, trimming the hedge or chopping a branch off a tree or hammering at a fence or just parking their van and banging about a lot. I remember one Sunday morning about 8 o'clock a man turned up with a chainsaw and began attacking a tree. A neighbour came out and asked him what the fuck he thought he was doing with a chainsaw at 8 o'clock in the morning and waking up the whole neighbourhood. Thankfully the man buggered off. So the fact their actions are going to annoy more than just the target doesn't mean they're not targeting a specific person when they do this. Actually, it's quite a good way of disguising their actions. Of course, to these other people, it's just one hiccup in an otherwise average day. For the target, though, it is more distressing because they are sensitised to it, and it will be one of many that happen to them throughout the day. Okay, so that was 7th of July, that was on Friday. And so now I'll read an entry from the 13th of April 2014. So that's 3 years ago, and this is when I was staying with my dad. I went for a drink with Liz and Richard and Ed last night. So Liz is my twin sister, Richard is her partner, and Ed's my brother. He's younger than me and he's at uni. I only stayed for one as Grace and Hope, Liz's daughter, were at Dad's on their own. Grace is my younger sister. Ed told me an interesting story when he came back. Heather, Liz's eldest daughter, went for a drink with Olivia, Claire's eldest daughter. They are both 15. Olivia has a boyfriend who is 17. Heather was quite shocked by the revelations Olivia made to her. Olivia is sleeping with her boyfriend, and when Heather went out with them, they were all smoking weed. Liz apparently isn't sure if she should tell Claire. Footnote. So these footnotes, this is me commenting on this journal entry from the present. She didn't tell Claire in the end. I don't know what her real motives were for not saying anything. I suppose kids do these things because it makes them feel grown up and cool. In the end though, it puts them back. This is back to the journal. Liz and Richard are moving into a house just 7 houses down the road from Dad's. They're moving in on the 1st of May. I'm looking forward to them moving in. She says she's going to get a puppy and that I can look after it while she is at work. She is also working on an idea to start her own business, selling story packs to nurseries. These packs include a storybook and some stuffed toys and instructions on how to act out the story. These things are all legislated for now, and nurseries have to make sure they are complying, so these kits enable the nurseries to make sure they're complying with legislation. She said I can knit the toys for her. She needs a team of knitters. Unfortunately, she is only willing to give me £5 a toy, and as I can only knit 1 a day, that isn't much. Footnote. Actually, none of this happened. She did move in, but she didn't get a puppy, and she didn't go any further with her business idea. Actually, what she did was pretty horrible. She persuaded my dad he should throw me out, and that if I was homeless the council would give me somewhere to live. She even wrote in a letter to give to the council. The psychic told me this was because of jealousy. She didn't like me living at home with our dad. She's still in that stage of trying to win approval and affection. Everything always turns into a competition with Liz. I move in with our dad, and she rents a house next door and then gets me thrown out. It would have been funny if it hadn't been me all this was happening to. What's funny too is that I thought we were over all this and that we could be friends. I'm always having to constantly remind myself that how I am and how I live my life isn't how everyone else around me lives. So back to the journal. I kept to just 2 tramadol today. I'm running low. My next doctor's appointment isn't till the 30th of April. I seem to spend much of my time these days pondering on how to make myself better, how to become a happier person, how to find a life I can enjoy and that will give me an income. Footnote. I'm getting a message now, a psychic kind of message from like my guides or my angels. I'm getting the message now. The purpose of my life is to concentrate on the moment and to be in the present. It's bizarre, if we're watching TV or a film then we can become totally focused on what we're watching. If only we could be that focused on reality as well. When I listen to music I can sometimes become that focused. I'm listening to music now, a Friends Reunited compilation from the 80s. It's hard to stay focused though when I'm writing at the same time. It's the words that repeat in your head that interfere with staying focused. So I'm trying to write without repeating everything I'm writing. I suppose one way TV keeps us focused is that everything that is happening is apparently important. They cut out all of those moments when people are doing things that aren't very dramatic or don't seem meaningful, for the purpose of the programme anyway. We have to learn to give our attention to the undramatic moments as well. This is where peace is. One of the secrets to a happy life is to make it as undramatic as possible. Unfortunately, the TV tells us exactly the opposite, that life is meant to be dramatic. Back to the journal. A number of times in the past I've been given the message through psychics that I'm too serious. Play is difficult though if you're autistic. It includes a lot of self-expression and communication. We prefer activities with clear purposes and structure. I sometimes think we come across as serious because we're simply not as expressive and communicative as other people are. That said, I do realise I'm feeling serious most of the time. I think if you've had a hard life, if you've experienced a lot of pain, seriousness becomes your base emotion. Everything becomes tainted with that pain, and life becomes a serious business of solving problems. The challenge is to be able to face these challenges. I've used challenge twice there. The challenge is to be able to face these problems and this pain, and still somehow to feel joy and happiness. While I was thinking about this, I felt a tickling sensation in my chest, over my heart centre. I think it was my guides telling me that to open our heart centres, we have to be more light-hearted, joyful, and not take things too seriously. This might seem strange advice if you are dying of cancer, or you're a targeted individual, or you've lost someone you love, or you're about to lose your home. These are all very serious things. But this advice is always the same, whatever your position is, to find some time at least when you can forget your worries and relax a little. Footnote. One way I've been doing this recently is to try and forget who I am, to imagine myself as I might have been before I was born, as an untainted soul, to imagine how it would feel if I couldn't remember who I was, to not have any memories of my past. Sometimes I phrase this as what it would be like not to have an ego, not to have that part of my personality. If you can find some moments of happiness, then the perps have lost. Back to the journal. There is a lot I could feel down about. I don't have much to show for 40 odd years of living. No home of my own, no spouse, no friends, no job, no career, and no idea of what I could do in the future. I've been asking my guides and angels for guidance, and am looking for signs and inspiration. Mostly though I feel as if I've been told to wait. So although I have nothing, as my sister puts it, I don't have any problems or responsibilities either, nothing to weigh me down or worry me. I just need to have faith and believe I am on the right path. This is a footnote. Thinking about this now, this is a pile of poo. I'm faced with problems every day. There is never a day that goes by without physical or psychological attacks from the perps. Back then, though, I still thought it was possible to build a normal life, and also that someone was going to come along and take me away from all this crap. I realise now that my attempts to live a normal life were never going to happen. As a targeted individual from childhood, the controllers were never going to allow me to fulfil my dreams. If you're a targeted individual, you need to concentrate on maintaining your sanity and informing others. That's the only thing Spirit is expecting of you, and what you expected of yourself before you came into this life. So don't beat yourself up for not having achieved all the things we're taught to aspire to when we're younger. Sometimes it can feel as if you're in some kind of prison, and you're just waiting for the day when you can be free. Some people even refer to Earth as a prison planet. The best thing you can do is to devote yourself to internal work, that is, spiritual development. This is all you will take forward with you when you leave the Earth plane anyhow. And in this way you are also helping others on the planet to raise their awareness, and in turn to help you. Okay, so that's the end of the journal entry for the 13th of April 2014. And I'll see you next time.